Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, depending upon where you have joined from. And welcome to today's webinar from Data Platform Geeks. And today we are discussing about developing zero-code machine learning models using Microsoft technologies. And our today's speaker is Anupama Natarajan, who is an AI MVP from New Zealand, and she's also Data Platform Geeks regional mentor from New Zealand. And my name is Satya Ramesh, and I will be the host for you today. And Aarti Nambiar, she is my colleague, and she's helping me with moderation. Before we move forward, a quick word about who we are and what we do. Data Platform Geeks is a community initiative by Amit Bansal and supported by Microsoft and powered by AWS Systems. AWS Systems, under which we have a lot of other brands as well, SQL Maestros, under which we do a lot of advanced trainings on SQL Server and Microsoft Data Platform technologies. And we also have a couple of self-learning methodologies called learning kits and hands-on labs. And we also have video courses, which I'll talk about a bit later. And eDomra also have a couple of other brands like Peopleware India and Expand SMERP. And Data Platform Geeks is a free community. Data Platform Geeks organizes free community events and webinars across the year and in various cities in India as well. And once in a year, we do an international summit called Data Platform Summit. And here is the picture from recently concluded Data Platform Summit that happened in Bangalore, red and blue in August 2019, where 900 attendees from 300 plus companies attended, and speakers also traveled from 20 plus countries, and there are about 50 plus speakers. So if you can go ahead and read more about the success of this summit at www.dps10.com. Here's a quick picture of eDomina teams and DPG teams is on stage. So here is a DPG core team member, founder and president Amit Bansal, and we have Manohar Punna, who is a vice president from Australia, and we have other regional mentors from various cities in India. And you can also see Anupama Natarajan here. She is also a regional mentor from New Zealand. So here are the eDomina teams across India, who will help us organizing these events. And special thanks to Microsoft for supporting us unconditionally. And you already know Data Platform Geeks organizes a lot of free events. You're already a member, so be a member, and you can access a lot of free videos, labs, and magazines, etc. And we are about to put up all conference materials for free there. So stay tuned for that news. And if you have any questions beyond this webinar, please join these groups to post your questions. This is a Facebook group and LinkedIn group, and we also have a community on Telegram. You can use that as well. And we do record all our webinars, and all our webinars are uploaded in youtube.com/SQL Server Geeks YouTube channel. And we also have SQL Maestro YouTube channel where we record a lot of free videos on SQL Server performance tuning and T-SQL querying and programming. You can subscribe to the channel so that you will get notified whenever we have a new video uploaded. So yes, today's webinar is also recorded, and we will be recording, and we're going to upload this one under SQL Server Geeks YouTube channel. So stay tuned to this eDomina data community on Telegram channel. So we'll post whenever we have any update. Over to you, speaker. So I'm handing it over to Anupama. So take it over, please.
Great. Thanks, Satya. Welcome everyone for the webinar today. And the topic for today's webinar is developing zero-code machine learning models using Microsoft technologies. This is going to be an interesting topic because starting from day one, when machine learning was a buzzword in the market, everyone's concern was like, okay, I don't know much about data science, I don't know much about algorithms, or I don't have a degree in statistics. How do I go about building machine learning models, and is that feasible, or is it only for just a typical data scientist? What Microsoft normally does is they make tools and technologies much easier for developers. So their target audience is how do they build tools to make developers' life easy? So that's where this zero-code machine learning models have come into existence. So without any further delay, let us jump on to today's topic. A little bit about myself. I'm Anupama Natarajan. I'm living in Wellington, New Zealand. I have got 20 plus years of experience working in the IT industry, and I'm a Microsoft MVP for AI, certified trainer, as well as speaker and blogger. So my passion is more around data, AI, business intelligence, and integration. My expertise is pretty much in Microsoft technologies in the last 20 plus years. And if you need to reach out to me post this particular webinar, feel free to reach out to me through any of my social channels, as I have mentioned here. Great. So today's agenda is around what are the different challenges users face with machine learning. These users can be either data scientists or developers or anyone who is actually creating the machine learning models. What are the different authoring experiences that are available with the Azure Machine Learning? We'll briefly look at Azure Machine Learning Designer, a demo around how do you use the Azure Machine Learning Designer, which is currently in preview. We also look at automated machine learning user interface. So what is it used for? And of course, a brief introduction around that, as well as a demo of automated machine learning. So the idea for today's session is around introducing how you can build machine learning models without having much of the knowledge around building models from scratch, instead using graphical user interface. A basic understanding of algorithms and data science is really required. So without that, you can't still build a machine learning model. But you don't need to write Python code or R code in deep in order to build a model. But at least a basic understanding of the algorithms is important. So what are the common challenges people find with machine learning? So if you look at some of the common challenges, it's all about setting the development environment. As you can see, like you may need to just provision a virtual machine or something. You have to install a whole heap of tools, whether you are going to use Python, you're going to use R, and if you want to just use Databricks, or if you want to use SQL Server, for machine learning, all these tools and database platforms should be installed in your development environment. That itself is a tedious task. And we all know like how much it takes even to set up a simple development environment in our organization for doing either database management or doing development. The second thing is not everyone will be familiar with all the syntax. So maybe some people will be really good in Python, some people will be really good in R. So it is hard to find out someone who has got familiarity with all the syntax of all the different languages. And the third important thing is that when you're talking about machine learning models, you're dealing with a huge volume of data. And just making sure that we have got enough hardware and infrastructure available in order to process these models, or in order to store these output of these models as well as the data. And that has been a challenge for a lot of organizations, especially if they want to deal with on-premises environment. The next one is scale. So as you know, with big data, sometimes if you're getting real-time feeds coming through as data sets in your organization, the frequency of that can vary. So sometimes during the busy period of the year, you may have huge volume of data coming through, while there is during the dull period of the data, dull period of your environment, you may not get much of that data. So how do you scale up and scale down depending on your needs? And the next thing is around lack of flexibility. The tools and technologies that doesn't provide you enough flexibility in order to do the different things that you want to achieve with machine learning models. And finally, how do you integrate your models with the production environments? This is coming around, okay, I have got a new model created. I want to deploy the model. And especially with machine learning models, it's not about just you create the model and you finish it off. It's not just a one-off activity. Actually creating a machine learning model is an ongoing process. So you may create a model, you may get new data sets arriving to your organization. You may go through that entire life cycle of cleansing, updating your model and retraining the model and publishing your model. And this cycle will go again and again. So you need a fully integrated environment in order to make this process as a repeatable process. So these are some of the common challenges a lot of people and within the organizations had with machine learning. And how do you have a proper process to streamline all these challenges? So there comes Azure Machine Learning. So Microsoft have been looking at these challenges which each and every organization has been facing, and then they have just delivered a product called Azure Machine Learning, which takes into account of all these challenges and provides an environment for organizations in order to do machine learning in a defined process. I have been working with a lot of my clients. This would have been 3 or 4 years ago. And one of the challenge we had was we had to do a lot of consulting in coming up what is the proper process in order to do machine learning models. So we had to sit down with them and they showcased us like, okay, we have got a lot of scripts sitting in the network system. How do we manage the code base here? Okay, so we have got a lot of data sitting in different databases and file system. How do we manage? What is the repository where we can manage this data? And also, like they said, like we create a lot of models, we write a lot of readme.txt files, and we are struggling around how do we version our models. So as you can see here, this is not just a theoretical scenario. This is a practical scenario where organizations have been having this challenge in the last few years. But what Azure Machine Learning is trying to address is all these common problems so that data scientists can focus on working on the data and working on the models rather than trying to worry about, okay, the infrastructure, the data storage mechanism, or how do I do versioning of my models, etc. So within Azure Machine Learning, you can create models in multiple ways. And previously, like this machine learning on Azure is evolving. So if you have heard about other terminologies like machine learning studio, machine learning service, they are still in there, but I think under a bigger umbrella called as Azure Machine Learning. So within Azure Machine Learning, so you have now got automated machine learning. You have got a visual interface which allows you to build machine learning models. And finally, you have also got notebooks. And hopefully everyone would have learned about what notebooks are. So if you haven't heard about notebooks before, I would definitely encourage you to just go and Google about what notebooks are, and especially Jupyter notebooks. Because notebooks are going to be the future in terms of like how do you uh, manage your code as well as instructions and the output of your code all in one interface. And if you haven't looked at Azure Data Studio, you have got notebooks even for running your T-SQL statements. So if you haven't exposed to notebooks, that is the first thing I will recommend you to go and look for and try to understand about what notebooks can offer for you. So these are the different channels using which you can create machine learning models within Azure. Great. So the first one we are going to look at is the Azure Machine Learning Designer. So this is a tool that allows you to create machine learning models in using a drag and drop interface here. So as I mentioned before, like you can easily build machine learning models using Azure Machine Learning Designer, but you need to still need to be clear on how do I go about using different algorithms and what are the different algorithms that are supported out of the box and what do you use for solving which business problem. Great, let me quickly jump here. Great, not on mute. That is something always I love to check. So what I have got here is my Azure portal, and I have got a few resource groups that has been created, and I have got a DPG webinars resource group. So what I'm going to go and do here is jump onto that resource group. Sorry, I'm just jumping into this DPG webinars resource group. The first thing I'm going to add here is a machine learning service. So I need to provision a machine learning service before I can even create a model using the designer. So can just go and search for machine learning. Just searching, or I can go here quite easily. Great, as you can see here, machine learning It's just the umbrella term for the service which I want to provision. So I can go ahead and create a machine learning service here. So as usual, you need to give some basic information about what should be your machine learning workspace name and the subscription under which you need to create, the resource group under which you need to create the machine learning service, and finally the location. And one of the thing also to look at is the workspace edition. So there are multiple workspace editions that it supports. One is basic and one is enterprise. So we'll be looking at what is the difference between basic and enterprise subsequently in the slides. But just to understand, basic supports some basic features that you can use as part of creating your machine learning models, while enterprise will give you some advanced features. So what Microsoft have done is to reduce this pricing plans in such a way that you can pick and choose what you really want, and the costing for your models will work accordingly. Great. So let us quickly look at the model that I have provisioned already. So as you can see here, I created a machine learning designer demo machine learning service provisioned on Azure already. So as you can see here, I have already got that. So now you can, once you provision the service, now you can launch the Azure Machine Learning Studio. Great. As you can see here, it is now launching the Machine Learning Studio, which it is going to allow me to create machine learning models in multiple ways. So while that is coming, there is another way how you can access the Machine Learning Studio. So if you put just ml.azure.com, that also will open the Azure Machine Learning Studio. Okay, while that is happening, so this is the actual Machine Learning Studio, as you can see. The area that you need to be focusing on is this. So these are the three different ways how you can author machine learning models within Azure Machine Learning Studio. So again, these three different things allows you to create the models. These two things, which is the designer and the automated ML, provides you the graphical user interface where you can create your machine learning models without writing any code. So the first one we are going to look at is the designer. So here I'm clicking on designer. As you can see here, there are a lot of examples that automatically pops up in terms of these are some of the samples that are available for you to go ahead and create the machine learning models. So as you can see here, we have got regression model where you can detect the automobile price prediction. So there is a basic and advanced version of that. Then you have a binary classification model. And similarly, there are other examples where you can utilize these models and you can customize them also. So classic one, what we are going to do is take a regression automobile price model. So I will just click on that example. Great. So this sample which plugs in with all the different tasks, but if you really want to drag and drop or change something, the information is available here. So in this case, I just expanded the data sets. So I have got the different data sets available. So whether I'm using census data or am I going to use automobile price data or something. And of course, you can upload your own data sets here. So if you have previously used the ML Studio or the Azure Machine Learning Studio, I think the interface will be more or less similar to that. The terminology has been changed as a designer, and Microsoft have folded this inside the Azure Machine Learning umbrella, because rather previously it was kept as a standalone service of its own, but now you can see that under the Azure Machine Learning service itself. So that's the list of data sets. Similarly, you can drag and drop your input, data input and output. Either you can import or export the data from here, and all the other things in terms of do you want to do any transformations, you can go ahead and drag and drop the columns that you require to do the transformations. And any setting changes that you need to do, for instance, from this data set, I want to exclude the normalized losses column. So you can go ahead and exclude those columns. So that's how you can go ahead and keep on building this particular model. And again, as I said, it's pretty much graphical user interface. You can drag and drop and do the configuration here. And you're not writing a single line of code here as we speak. So once you have defined your machine learning model using the graphical user interface, what you can do is you can hit on run. So this gives you like saying, okay, what should be the name of your model? So I'll just remove the word sample, and I'll just put demo regression model here. And it says like, okay, you need to choose a compute target. So as you can see here, the compute target is like, okay, what is the resource I need to use to run this model? So I can choose a computer target. So I have got a demo target that I have created. Either you can choose an existing one, or you can go ahead and create a new one where you can specify like how many virtual CPUs you need to like this is a configuration that you will be providing. So you can just provide a set of configuration name for your compute, and then you can just assign that. Or you can go ahead and choose the one which I have already created, saying, okay, use the demo target, and I'll just say save. And now the save is happening, as well as I need to provide a name for this experiment. Okay, let me do price prediction demo. Sorry, I will put a new experiment. So price prediction demo, and hit on run. So what it actually does is like it goes and now it will train this model. So the data set that I have provided here, the model will be going and using that data set, and it will automatically train the model. And once the model is trained and available, then probably you can publish it. And as you all know, like when you publish a model, basically you get a web service endpoint, which you can utilize in any downstream applications. So if you are familiarized already with the Azure Machine Learning Studio, which is the ML Studio, then probably like this is using a similar interface in here. A few things that has been changed here is around provisioning the model using the Azure Machine Learning. So previously that was on a separate website. We have to provision Azure Machine Learning, and then probably the compute will be linked with the model. But now they have folded everything using this interface. Let us jump on to our slides now. Great. So what does Azure Machine Learning Designer allows you to do is basically you can create an update, or you can run your pipelines within that workspace. It allows you to import or export the data sets. You can assign the compute resources that you require in order to run your models or train your models. You can register as well as publish your models. Here it will be published as the various endpoints. And finally, like you can deploy the models as either for batch inference or real-time endpoints. So organizations have got scenarios where they want to use machine learning models over real-time data versus like, okay, I get data only once a day and I want to just push that data to and refine or retrain my models on a nightly basis. So you can either create a batch endpoint, or you can create a real-time endpoint depending on your need. So let me quickly jump on to that demo which I was showing. So before you can publish it, you need to choose, okay, now I have created the model or trained my model. Do I really need a real-time inference pipeline or a batch inference? So what it will do is, according to this, the endpoints will be created, and Microsoft knows like, okay, you are using it more on the real-time scenario, and the compute will be calculated based on which option you're choosing here. Great. So while I was provisioning the Azure Machine Learning service, I briefly talked about like there is a pricing tier you need to choose, whether you're choosing basic or enterprise. So this is just to reduce the amount of fact saying like, okay, how many times you are using the endpoint and how the pricing works based on that. So Microsoft wanted to reduce the complexity around that. So you have the basic edition, which is currently generally available. So the way the basic edition works is you don't have any machine learning surcharge on the Azure resources. So you can only when the model runs, you will be paying for that. But other than that, there is no surcharge on Azure resources. While Enterprise Edition, which is currently in preview, what happens is like when it becomes GA, you will be having a machine learning surcharge. So that is something to be noted. Okay, so that is the difference between the different pricing models, the basic edition as well as the enterprise edition. So the enterprise edition, currently it's in preview mode. That is something to keep in mind. So just to rewind back, so what we saw as part of the demo one was Azure Machine Learning Designer. So how do we use the Machine Learning Designer to build your models? So what are we going to look at? The next option is your automated machine learning UI. So what automated machine learning is going to do is, so typically what happens is the data scientists get the data, they do some transformation, they build the models, they pick and choose the algorithm, they build the models, and finally they train the models and publish it for people to use it. And again, this is going to be a repeatable process. But as I said, this is not as simple as such in terms of, okay, building a model and publishing it. Sometimes they have to build n number of models for the particular business problem they are trying to solve. And they have to pick and choose the right model that they can use that is going to give them the optimal result. So what it really means is like based on the inputs, input parameters and the data, sometimes they have to create n number of models for different input combinations, the input parameters and the combinations. And finally, they have to find out which particular model is going to give them the optimal result. And this is not a simple process, and most of the data scientists spend their time in creating these models. So what Microsoft have thought about this is, if you look at some common scenarios like, okay, I want to do fraud detection or anomaly detection, or I want to do price optimization. So these are common scenarios across all the industries. Rather than doing the same thing again and again for price optimization or any or the anomaly detection, what they have done is they have just asked the users to put what is the data set, what are the parameters that you want us to use in terms of your the machine learning model creation. And finally, the automated machine learning will create different models based on the data as well as the input parameters. And finally, it will give you the list of models that got created as well as the most optimized model that Microsoft is or the machine learning is recommending for the end user to use. So this is basically to save the data scientist time. Great. So the main idea for doing this is to save the time and data scientist time and resources, because you don't want to use your data scientist time to do this repeatable process where things can be automated, as well as doing this repeatable process with also like you have to follow through the entire data lifecycle or the data science lifecycle management process. And also like as and when you want to tweak it, it is quite easy to tweak your data set and rerun your models again. So this is to just how do you do data science in an agile fashion. So these are the common things like automated machine learning allows you to do. But one thing to be careful is like this is not a solution for every single machine learning problem. So it is a good solution for some of the common problems that you can address with machine learning, which is like a repeatable process. Like the data as well as the input parameters change much, but not the actual algorithm or the way how you do the model creation. So if they are consistent, then probably that is a good candidate to use for automated machine learning. Okay, so let us quickly look at like how do we use automated machine learning. for creating your machine learning models without writing any code. Okay, let me jump on to this screen. Great. So coming back to this screen. So as you can see here, so this is the automated machine learning. What it allows you to do is you go here and create it, and you can go ahead and start creating your new automated machine learning run. So I'll just go here and say new automated machine learning run. So what I have got is some sample data set, which is like a CSV file, which I have used here. So you can create a new data set either from a local data file. In this case, like the CSV file was locally kept, or you can use a different data store or from web files or some open data sets which you have got. Select the data source here. So you can, as usual, look at the data and you can see the statistics around, okay, what is the profiling of the data looks like. Okay, great. I can close this. Now I will move on to the next one, which is configuring my run. So I need to provide a experiment. So I'll just turn this into my second auto ML experiment. So I need a target column that I need to use. So the main idea for this target column, as you can see, this is what the model will be trained to predict. So if it is not clear here, so as you can see here, the target column that's the column that will be used by your model, where it will be trained to predict that target column. So I'll be just going and using, this is the column that I want to target. And as usual, as you saw in the designer demo, like we need to provide what is the computing target. So here I have already got a target. As you see, there were two virtual CPUs machine that I provided. So I will provide the same target. But if you want to create a new compute specifically for your automated machine learning models, you can go ahead and create it here. So hit on next. Okay, so now you can specify, okay, it has to be a classification model or regression model or time series forecasting. In this case, it is going to be just a classification model. And great. So I'm not going to enable any deep learning stuff. I'm just going to see any other additional settings I want to choose here. So the primary metric I want to do is AUC weighted. And these are the things I'm just talking about. So you need to really work with your data scientist, or even the data scientist can go and set these configurations and the model will be recreated again and again. So, and also it says like, okay, show me the best model. So it's not about defining the models, and just give me the explanation why Azure Machine Learning chose that as the best model out of the models it calculated. So then you can see what is the time. So here I'm going to just reduce it to 1 hour, not more than that. And any validations or any concurrency iterations that you want to do, just keep it as 1 and hit on save. So these are some parameters which if you work out with your data scientist, they will be able to tell you what is the right thing to put for this problem. And finally hit on finish. So now this is going to create a new automated machine learning run. I'm not just going to keep on waiting here. So let me quickly launch this. So I have already got a machine learning model created. So while the first one is running, sorry, the second one is running, we can see the first one which I got created exactly for the same parameters. Great. As you can see here, it has done multiple runs, which is the 3 runs that has been completed. So each run, when you click on that, it will show you the list of models that the machine learning that got created. So these are the automated machine learning models that got created. And you can, of course, easily download each and every machine learning model here. So if I click a particular model, and it will give me the score of the model and also like all the information related to that the explanations related to the model, why it has been picked up. So in this case, there is no explanation. I can ask for explain the model. So that is going ahead and running it. Okay, sorry for that, because I think I'm already running the other model currently running on, so it doesn't have much thing. So let me wait until that finishes so you can see the explanation of, for the model. And finally, the visualization. So as you can see here, the different visualizations that the model created. So the precision recall, the calibration curve. And don't worry about this, because this is more for your data scientists. So if you can, as you can see here, pretty much all the models have been created for them to use and reference. And each model will, if you ask for explanation, it will also be provided. And of course, you have got the weighted average in terms of like why Microsoft is recommending this as the right model to choose for your problem. So as I was showing here that there is a whole heap of runs it has done, and also a whole heap of models that got created, which you can use it from, and you can visualize them. Great, while that is loading, let's jump back onto the slides. So the idea behind that is just having a look at how Microsoft have simplified the automated machine learning, using the automated machine learning process, how you can create machine learning models quite easily for common things like what we saw, like some regression algorithms, like classification algorithms. They sometimes they follow a similar pattern. So pretty much your data scientist can initially configure everything and set it up once, and probably it will rerun every time when the new data set comes in, and retrains and reclassifies the algorithms. So the common use cases for automated machine learning, as I have mentioned here, from a classification perspective, we can use it for fraud detection and market prediction. From a regression algorithm perspective, you can use it for CPU performance reduction and material durability prediction. Time series forecasting perspective, you can use it for demand forecasting and sales forecasting. So as you can see, the common pattern here is these are things that are repeatedly used in various industries. Like for instance, demand forecasting and sales forecasting, that will be across multiple industries, not just defined to one particular industry or something. And that's where this automated machine learning is going to be really ideal. So how it works in simple terms, we saw as an example. So what really does is the user, here the user can be your data scientist who has to provide the list of data sets. What is the target metric that they want to just identify? What are the constraints? So what are the different constraints is in terms of time or cost that they can provide. Once they feed this information, the automated machine learning is going to use the features and the algorithm, the appropriate algorithm for that, along with the parameters, and it is going to score each and every training. So every time the model gets created on various different parameters, it is going to be assigned a score. And again, based on that score, it is going to rank what is going to be the optimized model that can be utilized by your downstream systems. So as you can see here, it does the ranking. And finally, this is the ranking that you will be able to see that via the Azure portal I showed. So where you can pick and choose what is the right model that you can use to solve that problem. Great. So these are some of the references that you can use in terms of how do you get started. If you look at the designer, it is currently still in review mode. And if you want to just try automated machine learning and things, I would say this would be a good start for you to kickstart to see how do you build machine learning models without writing any lines of code. So as you can see here, I didn't even write a single line of code. It's all about drag and drop interface. And finally, having a good understanding of which algorithm to use and what data sets to use and what parameters to pass. And I think that is the basic level of understanding you need in order to use these tools. But I always recommend to just read through and get a good understanding of introduction to data science and what are the common algorithms that are available to use it for different use cases. Just a couple more things that I wanted to share. Pause once again. Okay, so if you're worried about like I was using Azure Machine Learning Studio, what is going to happen with Azure Machine Learning Studio? So Microsoft have now classified that as a classic. So going forward, everything will be now driven through the Azure Machine Learning Studio, and which will be part of the designer. So this is what your ML Studio has now got replaced with. And even if you now sign in, and if you say like, I want to just, I'm not a ML Studio Classic user, then probably you can go here. Microsoft will be migrating most of your ML models that are available here into the machine learning designer environment. And everything will be now placed under the basic, what do you say, that is the pricing model. But if you want to move to enterprise, that is something you can do. Great. While talking about that, these are the different pricing tiers that are available. So what is supported as part of basic as well as enterprise. So as you can see here, there are quite a few things that you can do as part of the enterprise pricing model. One of the limitation that we had with the basic or the ML Studio is it doesn't support for large data sets. So we had a limitation of 10 gig or something, but now there is a huge support for large data set with the enterprise edition. And of course, like what are the things that you can do with the machine learning pipelines and the compute capacity that you can provide. Great. Finally, ML Ops. I think even though that is not part of today's session, I'll just briefly touch on ML Ops. ML Ops is basically you can take the models that you got created as part of the machine learning studio, the preview or the designer part, as well as the automated machine learning. But pretty much you can create like similar to a DevOps pipeline, you can create a machine learning operations pipeline, and you can just do the deployment of your machine learning models. So this was again introduced, I think, this year at the Build conference. That is something to look into. It's similar to your DevOps model, what you do for your applications and databases, but here the same information, like the same way how you can do your DevOps for your machine learning models. Great. So these are some of the things that I wanted to share, and I think this is still loading, and that's the reason, because we said like a hour, at least it will take like 15 to 20 minutes for the model to create. And that's the reason like I have already got an automated ML model created, which I have demonstrated. Great, I think we have got another 15 minutes, but I'm happy to take up any questions. I could see a lot of questions on the Q&A thing. So Satya, shall we start with the Q&A? Hello?
Before taking Q&A, I just have a few slides. I'll just go through them.
Oh, okay, great. Go ahead with that. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Anupama, for a wonderful webinar on machine learning, and we have people enjoyed. And if you have any questions, Anupama will answer now in Q&A panel. Please put up your questions into Q&A panel. While you are putting up your questions, and I'll go through a few other slides as well. And beyond this webinar, if you have any questions, you can use our social channels. Here are the links: Facebook group, LinkedIn group, and Telegram group. As I already told you, SQL Maestros. Under SQL Maestros, we do a lot of advanced trainings on SQL Server, Microsoft Data Platform technologies. And recently, we have come up with this new video courses on SQL Server performance tuning and T-SQL querying and programming. These are 100+ hours comprehensive coverage, advanced and deep dive. So if you want to know more about SQL Server performance tuning video course and T-SQL querying video course, visit sqlmaestros.com, or else you can write to contact@sqlmaestros.com. And SQL Maestros also offers hands-on labs, which is a self-learning documents where you go through the document and you learn a topic. And a lot of other webinars are lined up. All are free, and we have a free in-person event in Hyderabad on 23rd of November. And if you see the schedule, we have this Thursday, we have a webinar on column store indexes, and we have a couple of other webinars as well. So if you can see, all the list is available here. And today's webinar post is already posted in LinkedIn. Please put up your comment feedback there. That will encourage the speakers to come back and deliver the free technical events and sessions for you. So please post your comments there, and LinkedIn URL is there in the chat window. Please use the link in the chat window to post your feedback. Over to you, Anupama.
Great, thanks, Satya. Okay, I'm just looking at the questions here, and let me start with, does Azure Machine Learning support versioning? For instance, when teammates are working on the same project, can we use version control to separate the work from each other? Yes, I think you can, but what you can do is not tightly integrated in the interface where you have seen, but once you have the model, then probably you can download the model and you can easily version control them. Currently, as I said, the designer is again still in preview mode. We need to wait and watch whether a native integration is going to get added through that. But I'll keep you posted when I get to see more information around the version control through the designer interface. Can we add custom data source to the machine learning experiments? Yes, you can. So what I was doing was I was taking a custom data, which is just a CSV file from my file system, but that data can be either from the file system or from the web or even from other Azure resources also. When you try to choose the data set, you can pick and choose which data set you can use it. Can we use blob storage as well? I think you should be, but I'll just confirm that and I'll post it on my blog around whether it has a native integration currently. Does it automatically find the training set from the data set? No, I think you need to specify the percentage of how much of that data should be used as training versus testing. So can we see the output of each step? Yes, you will be able to. So when you just right click on that, for every step you can just right click on that and you should be able to see that. So let me quickly, sorry, I couldn't share it because Satya, if you can stop sharing, I'll just quickly share my screen. Yeah, thank you. So what I'll be showing here is, let me go back to the designer. Great, if I take my demo. Great, so if I have my scoring model, training model and stuff, I just scroll down further. So you can say like visualize the scoring data set. Similarly, what you can do is for every step, you can visualize the output like this. Great, as you can see here, you can now see the output. So this is not just for one step, like for everything, you can see the output accordingly. Let me jump on to the rest of the questions. Okay, or the user, do they need to provide the training data set? Yes, I think the user has to provide the data set, but also just provide the ratio saying like how much of that data, how much percentage of the data set need to be used for training versus testing, and it can be used appropriately. Okay, sorry, I think it's jumping around. I think I have answered it. How AML knows which algorithm to use for a given data. So I think you have the option of choosing the algorithm saying like, okay, I want to use this algorithm, but it will go and create multiple, what do you say, models based on the different input parameters and the data set. So that's what it is clear enough to do in terms of how it comes up with a variety of models that meets your scenario. can you demo deployment in production environment and what are the ways? I think that will be a separate session of its own. It's around taking you through ML ops, which is the machine learning ops, which is how you do automation of your models, or how do you productionize your models from dev all the way to production. So I think that's not something I showed. I just briefly touched on what ML ops is, but I will do some other session at the webinars, which will walk you through how do you take an existing model and productionize them. So can you please show me the endpoint of the model created? In order to do that, you need to publish the endpoint. So currently I didn't publish the endpoint, but if you just hit on the publish button, what it does is it will give you the rest endpoints for the published version. Let me quickly check whether I have got one here that I can share. Yeah, I think I don't have a published one. Let me quickly check. Okay, while that is loading, I'll answer the next one. Okay, I'm a beginner and I want to start my career in machine learning. Can you please suggest from where to start? I will say start and understand about data science and probably a brief idea around the different algorithms available. You're not going to create them, but I think a brief understanding about the different algorithms and which algorithm you choose to solve for which problem, just a basic understanding of that is really important even before you can start using these machine learning, the graphical user interface tools. Can we see the code? Yes, you can download the model and have a look at it. So as you can see, it had an option where you can download the models, and yes, you can utilize download the models and use them. And of course, you can use it on edge devices too. One of the thing is like if you want to just download the model and use it in other devices, you should be able to do that. Okay, after designing the models, we will train using which algorithm? And that's what I said, like you can't choose the algorithm if you don't know what algorithm you can choose to solve what problem. So I would suggest, I'll just quickly show my screen. So I don't know how many of you have read through this or seen this website. So if you look for 5 questions, data science can answer. Okay, so this is data science for beginners. There is a documentation available on Microsoft website. So as you can see here, this introduces what data science is about and what are the different questions data science can answer. So depending on the type of the question, you will pick and choose a different algorithm that will help you to find answers for the question. So for instance, is this A or B? It will use classification algorithm. So either the answer is going to be A or B. But within classification, you have multi-classification algorithm. In this scenario, it's either A or B. But what if you have 3 options, A, B, and C? So you have to choose from either A or B or C. So that's called as multi-classification models. Similarly, it is looking for, is this weird or not? And this is, for this type of question, you'll be using the anomaly detection algorithms. So that is something, if you go through this, then you should be able to know, like, am I going to use a regression algorithm here or a classification algorithm or anomaly detection algorithm? So you will know that quite easily. And there is another reference which I will also show. I think I can even post it on my slide before I send it back. What it gives you is, it takes you through just a question and answer type of flow. And it will say like, okay, if you say your answer is yes, you will use this algorithm. If your answer is no, then you need to further go down. So I think there should be, yeah, here it is, like how do you choose an algorithm? So there is a machine learning algorithm cheat sheet. So this is for people who are just beginners and they want to know a brief, or they want a brief introduction about the different algorithms. So as you can see here, so these are the different types of algorithms that you have got. But I think more than this one, there was another one which I'll show you. Okay, let me get back to you on that. So just give me a moment. What I'll do is when I publish the slides, I will just publish to that your a PDF document, because that PDF document, this one, yeah, the infographic one. So if you go under the select an algorithm, so in the algorithm examples that is coming through. Let me quickly show this before I jump on. Great. So as you can see here, so this is like a flow diagram saying, okay, what do you want to do? So are you trying to predict values, where examples are like predict sales figures, analyze market returns, or estimate product demand? Or are you trying to find unusual occurrences? Or are you trying to discover structure? So based on that, it will ask a few more questions, and it will help you to figure out what is the right one to use, along with examples here. What I'll do is I'll just post this PDF documents URL in the slide references. Okay. Let me quickly look into the other questions. The code is in C#.NET. Can we see the code? Okay, was that the question was, is the code is in C#.NET? What I can do is I'll just send you a sample version of the model when I give the slides, so you can have a look at the code. But C#.NET is like you can use ML.NET separately. That is again a separate mechanism of how do you create models. So this one, I don't think so it is using C#, but I can just check that code and that model, and I can send it to you in terms of what language it uses behind the scenes. Can we edit the code after downloading the model code? Yes, you can, but I think how do you feed it back? That will be the question. So you have to make the changes through the graphical user interface. But if you take the model and if you want to customize it, and but if you want to sync it back, I don't see that currently available. But what you can do is you can modify it and use it without syncing it back. That you can do that. That is feasible. So does Azure ML directly support to Azure Synapse Analytics Service? I will wait for that. As you know, like Ignite conference happened only last week. There was far too much information that I had to just consume on my head last week. So I'm yet to just drill down into the Azure Synapse Analytics Service. So yeah, I haven't even cross-checked around to like how Azure ML feeds into that yet. But that is something I will just, once I go through Synapse a bit more, I'll just let you guys know through my blog. Compared to machine learning in AWS, Google, how much Azure machine learning is used for ML solutions? What's your take? Good question. I think this is a common question that I get asked around. Okay, so what are the like? How do you compare Azure with AWS and Google? Not just in machine learning aspect, in every aspect of AI. I would say it is all about doing the trial and error using the different services, because at the end of the day, the accuracy matters, and the product that is going to give you the highest level of accuracy for your business problem, then I will go ahead and use that, because the machine learning is evolving, and especially auto ML and things are evolving as we speak. So if you can find, I would say more as a trial, we need to try across different services. I can't just say like, oh, okay, for always trust Azure machine learning, it will give you the optimal model, but you have to do your own test across the different machine learning for your use case before you pick the optimal one. Great. The reason I'm saying that is because it's the same set of questions get asked around the cognitive services stack also. So at this point, yes, you have to do your own, but we need to wait and watch whether Microsoft is coming up with something to address this, saying how does their services like machine learning or other services like compare against Google or AWS. Let us wait and watch whether they have got anything around that space. Great. I think that is pretty much the questions I have got. I think the main question I have to get back to you guys on around the model itself, like whether the model can be edited, downloadable, what language it's been available. What I'll do is I'll just write a blog post, probably just walking you through how does the model file look like and what language and things it is currently available, and how do you can make modification. I'm pretty sure like you can't sync it back if you're updating the model without using the graphical user interface, but I'll also check that and confirm it. I think that's pretty much the list of questions I could see here, but feel free to send me any more questions that you have got either through my LinkedIn or through my blog or any of my social networking channels.
Thank you, Anupama. Thank you for your
Over to you,
webinar. And thank you for your patience. Or you have gone through all the questions that I have asked.
I think there was one more thing. Can you show me one more time the model which you dragged and dropped and the model interface and how it will communicate with the data set? Let me quickly do a sharing of the screen. Oh, still running 1 second. Okay, so here, if I say data sets, get back to my designer. Okay, so what I have to do here is for each and every task that appears here, you have some settings. So I can pick and choose the raw data here, and you can see some of the parameter settings, and you can see here like, okay, what parameters I need to pass, what are my outputs are going to be. And by doing this connection between these two things, so you will be able to see like which columns I need. So for instance, if I right click and say visualize the data set, so it automatically detected, okay, these are the columns that are available in that file in the data set that I have provided here, and automatically it gives me the visualization for that. And of course I can change some of the values here, like, okay, which column I need to choose, which column I need to omit. So I can do the exclusion or inclusion accordingly here, and all the columns and the features will be listed here. So I think this is pretty much, if you have previously used the ML Studio, I think pretty much they took that functionality and embedded it within the Azure portal itself. And of course, like cleansing missing data, you can choose your configurations here. So this is how like each and every task, as soon as I drag and drop, I will go and do the configuration before I move on to link it to the next task here. Hope that has answered that question in terms of like, how do I go and configure once I pick and choose the data set. Great, over to you, Satya.
Thank you, Anupama, for your webinar. Yeah, so we have put up a link in chat window. All of you, please post your feedback there and comments there. Thank you for attending the webinar.
And thanks for providing the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.